From The Life of Pi by Jan Martel. To choose doubt as a philosophy of life is akin to choosing immobility as a means of transportation.
Welcome back to the Reading Room Ruffians, your favorite library podcast. Today we have our board president, Suzy, on for our book chat this round. Hello, Suzy.
Hello.
This is Mallory, the beautiful nightmare, joined by my terrifying tree hugger and BFF, Ariel.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, or else.
And our supreme overlord, Carla.
At least I have someone else to keep me sane today.
We are recording from our library in Jackson County, West Virginia. Zach, the evil sidekick, is joining us from Seattle, Washington.
Too late to escape now. Yes, master.
Before we get to it, you can find our Facebook group by searching Reading Room Ruffians Podcast, which is linked to our library's Facebook page at facebook.com/Jackson County Library WV. You should give us a follow on TikTok and Instagram at WVJCO Library and give our podcast Goodreads page a look, which we have linked in our episode descriptions, along with our personal Goodreads pages. All right, it's book chat time.
I found a book that I really enjoyed when I was unpacking a storage building and moving my books somewhere else so I didn't have to pay $50 to save them anymore.
Yeah.
And it was called The Descent of Woman. And it was by Elaine Morgan. And it takes an entirely different view of evolution and how we evolved completely differently than what is the mainstream.
Yeah.
Her point was, like, if we were primates that came down from the trees and went onto the savannah, we would have become lion food.
Yeah.
And not had a chance to really evolve. So she thinks we went to the sea and we evolved along the seashore, which would explain why we have subcutaneous fat like other sea mammals and why our hair is like, I guess, not aerodynamically, but like where the water sheds off it and we can swim better. It's just a really, really good book, and it makes you totally look at things completely different.
And we like pretty shells.
And we do like pretty shells, and we collect things. But it's also a good source of food. I mean, there was all kinds of points she made. But
that's really cool.
But
we lure men to their death.
This is true. But she also said the hair on our heads was to help kids, like babies, hang on.
Oh, yeah.
When we had to escape to the water to evade predators.
Well, that makes sense.
So. Yeah. Anyway, it was a really good book, and it was kind of cool to rediscover it in one of my boxes.
I like the excuse about subcutaneous fat.
I do too. I was pretty tickled with that one.
Yeah. I just finished a couple of weeks ago a retelling of The Island of Dr. Moreau, and I have no idea who wrote it again. She also wrote Mexican Gothic, and it's a really interesting take on the island of Dr. Moreau. Instead of being on an island, he lives in Mexico with his daughter and all sorts of interesting things. And he uses, instead of vivisection, DNA and fetus manipulation. It's really good. It's a little scary, which you need to do in something like that. And it's also really thought-provoking. It's told from the daughter's point of view. It's really good if you like that kind of thing.
You would probably love it.
I was going to say, I was like, I kind of think I might need to read that.
It's out front.
There we go. Let's see. What have I read? I feel like I haven't read anything. I've only read 4 books this month, and that's just like nothing, basically. I know.
For us, that's like really bad.
Like I think a couple months ago I read 13 in a month. So I did start a series a trilogy, I guess. Not a series. Recently, it's was it Kingdom of the Cursed? Is a series?
Kingdom of the Wicked.
Kingdom of the Wicked.
Yeah,
is what it's called by Carrie. Was it Maniscalco?
Maniscalco, yes.
I was close.
Yeah, very close.
So I'm gonna say I'm not looking at my Goodreads. We're going for memory here.
Yeah, we're having fun.
We're having fun, are we? Anyways, it's about this girl who is a witch. She's not human. She's like, witches are apparently not human. She had a twin and her twin was murdered. And she found her twin underneath like a church with this man standing over her. And if I remember correctly, he tasted her blood. Like, she stood there and watched him, like, taste her blood.
Yeah.
So, it turns out that he was one of the wicked who are essentially, like, demons, fallen angels, whatever. But they're based off of, like, the 7 deadly sins. And he was Wrath. And I love this man.
He's a very good man.
No, he's amazing. He's amazing. Like, I know.
And he kills people?
Well, no, that's the thing.
Okay.
Well, I mean, he does. But it's like, they deserve it. It's one of those things.
You got to get into it to realize what's going on.
But she ends up, like, binding him to her. She, like, summons him into a circle and then binds him to her. And she's like, what? She thought he was the killer and found out that he's not the killer. And she's trying to discover who actually murdered her sister. And it's an enemies to lovers trope, which is the best trope.
Yeah, is this going to go on for 2 more books?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read the second one, and they are in hell in the second one. And she's, like, staying at his castle. And you're not allowed to go into the other demons' kingdoms unless you're invited. Otherwise, you can get, like, murdered. So, fun times. I think if I could not have Wrath, I think the other one that I would pick is Gluttony. I liked him. I like stuff. So
no, it's just kind of like Scythe, where it's much better than your description.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
It's very complex. That's Grace and I have been trying to get her to read them forever.
Yeah,
it's pretty complex. The stories weave pretty tightly, and once you get to the third book, you just kind of are like,
"Holy cow!" Okay, I didn't see any of it coming, really, if we're being honest. Which I'm not too good at catching that stuff anyway. I try not to.
The twist in the second one, I saw that coming.
I don't know that you will the third one, though. So that's fun. And then she's also doing a spin-off of House Envy, which is my second choice.
See,
just so
I like Gluttony. I didn't like Envy. He was annoying. I didn't like him too much. But, like, the reason I started this book was I messaged my friends, and I was like, I need me a morally gray character to simp over.
Both of us immediately were like,
this guy. So, and I love him. I do. Like, I messaged her and I was like, oh my God, I would marry him. I love him so much.
He is a good morally gray character.
He's just, because he's like, he is the god of wrath, essentially. So he has, like, anger issues. But that being said, everybody has a red flag.
Yep.
He won't let anyone hurt her, and he keeps everybody in order. These are the rules. He sticks to the rules. You're not allowed to break them. He keeps hell in order. And he's very, like, justice oriented.
That would be a really hard job.
Mm-hmm. It would be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, they're really good books, though.
Yeah. And I think I've said it before, but she also wrote one of my other very favorite series, Stalking Jack the Ripper. It's historical fiction, and I absolutely love it. It's about this girl who wants to be a forensic scientist or a mortician, I guess, and that's obviously unheard of in the time. And her uncle gets put on the case of the Jack the Ripper killings, and so she goes along to help him.
Yeah, that does sound good.
It's very good. I've
read that one. It is good.
I love the series so much.
That's another one she's trying to get me to read, but I just haven't yet.
Well, I just finished a real oldie. The movie Haunting in Venice has come out.
Oh, yeah.
And the paperback that they've got on sale now shows the picture of that. It says, based on Agatha Christie's Halloween Party. So loosely. The movie takes place in Venice. The book takes place in England in a comfy little, thing. Hercule Poirot, of course, is not Kevin Branagh. He's David Suchet. But the book itself is worth rereading. It is really fun. You may figure out who did it. You may not.
Yeah.
good and moody. So a lot of people are going back to Agatha because they're catching up. You know, the movie is pretty good. I don't want to be, you know, plugging movies on the book thing, because don't judge a book by its movie.
Yeah.
Definitely. Zach, you got any books?
Yeah, I was going to say, I got a book. I got a couple, but the first one I'm going to talk about. So, Chantel unfortunately convinced me to read The Fourth Wing.
Oh, you know, one of my teens is reading that, and I asked him if he liked it. He said it was really good.
Okay, it is not really good.
Okay.
There are some neat things about it, but here's the issue. So, premise of the book. You have these people who, it's like a country, and they have a bunch of dragons there. Their military is like dragon-based, right? You've got the infantry people who don't have any like dragons, but then you've got these dragon riders. And there's like a bunch of these like very hardcore school tests and stuff you have to do in order to be able to get a dragon to ride. And it starts off with like, you know, them trying to walk across this very precarious bridge thing. I think you call it the parapet. Probably, something like that. Anyway, they walk across it. It's very windy and stuff. And they are encouraged to some degree to like sabotage each other walking across. But if you fall off, you just die, right?
Okay.
That's like the first thing that you do when you even get in. So it's fine. But the main character, who is this like small girl with some sort of disease, I can't remember exactly what it's called. They don't say it in the book, but actually, let me just check here. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which basically means that, like, you know, your bones are kind of brittle and you have hypermobility in your joints. Anyway, she's got that. And the way that the author does, I guess, world building in this book is nonsense a lot of the time. Because this person, they were not supposed to be a dragon rider. They were supposed to be a scribe. And on this parapet scene, because they're so nervous, what they do is yell out, like, verbally, in the dialogue, like, the history of the country, as she knows it from being a scribe. And that's how they do the world building. And that happens several times in the book. And that's just, like, ridiculous.
Well, she's clinging to this narrow bridge thing.
Yeah, she just yells it out, like, here's some history of the whole place so that you can get the world building. Like, what in the world is
something completely different.
So they do that,
sounds really
which is like just poor writing. The writing itself is also not good. The dragons are kind of cool in it. They've got like the dragons are probably the best characters in the book, but the most of it feels very YA, like very YA. It doesn't feel like this new genre they're calling new adult, right? Because I guess this chick is 20 and like her love interest is 23. It tries to do the enemies to lovers trope, but they're never enemies. This girl just thinks that this guy's trying to kill her the whole time. He's clearly not. It's ridiculous. Everybody's like talking about how great all these twists and stuff in the book are. I don't know. Maybe it's just me because I've read a book before.
This is why you don't read popular books.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
This is why you don't read popular books.
I know, right? I was like, this one's like all the twists. They're like, oh, they're so like you don't see them coming, and I'm like, maybe it's just because I read a book before, but I saw all of them coming.
Yeah, that's it.
And then the final one on the last page, it's just like, well, I wasn't expecting that to happen. It is such like a common thing to happen in these books that I was just like, okay, well, obviously that was going to be a thing. But anyway, they call this thing New Adult, which is, in my reading of this book, if this is an example of New Adult, this is just a YA novel with YA level writing, right? But not clever. And then they've got like fairly intense sex scenes in it too.
Oh.
See, okay, then I am glad that I have not even added that to my TBR.
No.
Like, I've seen so many people say, oh, it's so good, it's so good. And, like, it's all over Book Talk and Instagram and, like, everywhere right now. And I've had, like, that makes me not want to read it in general, but, like...
It depends. It depends on who you are. Like, I know a lot of people who have liked it. I gave it 3 stars. It's a fine book. It's not like... I didn't hate reading it, but it wasn't... It's rated 4.65 on Goodreads right now. It does not deserve that.
Based on, compare it to ACOTAR. How bad?
I think this is more enjoyable than ACOTAR.
Okay.
It is a
Well,
more
at least
fun
there's that.
read. It is a more
At
fun
least
read
there's
because
that.
the dragon stuff is actually pretty cool. I think that I would prefer if somebody competent came in and wrote in this world as opposed to this chick writing in this world because she's just not good. And also, the other thing, okay, this chick, Rebecca Yarros, she is a historically a romance writer. This is her first fantasy, and you can tell it's her first fantasy, but also feels like her first romance because
Literally,
like this is going to be
How do you really feel about this?
I was not a fan. It was like I said, it was a fine book. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it though. But it doesn't make sense to me because, okay, this is a series, right? She has already gotten with the main like dark moody guy. There's already been a love triangle. They've already broken up to some degree because there's some betrayal happening, and then they got back together all in the first book. I'm like, what are you doing for the rest of the series, girl? If you're going to be doing this as a like a romance fantasy series, I mean, the next book comes out next month, I guess, so I might read that. But it comes out in November. But I don't know where you go from there in your romance thing. If you're going to have all this stuff, I guess maybe there's going to be a new person, but I don't think people would stand for
They
that.
have
So
to be, or somebody's going to die.
I don't know. Everybody really, really likes the main love interest here. So
What's the main love interest's name?
Xaden, Xaden.
Okay, never mind.
I think it's Xaden. He's the son of the leader of the like rebellion, basically. Oh, that's another dumb thing. Like they've got like all of these people who were the children of the rebellion, and instead of like putting them in like very low positions, they made them all enroll in the dragon school, and now half of them are like dragon riders. So
Basically, they taught the people that are really mad at them how to fight, right?
yeah, and gave them very powerful weapons to do it with. Yeah.
Smart.
So maybe the next book will be they have a baby and somebody takes the baby.
I thought about that there's a baby coming.
I mean, it's possible. I feel like that would be very unfortunate for her if she did have a baby just because of her condition. But you never know. It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
She's also just like, oh my god, she is like the absolute horniest person ever for Xaden the entire time. And it drives me absolutely up the wall. I don't know how many more times I could hear how she wanted to climb him before she actually got together with him. She used that terminology a lot. I'm just like, what in the world? Just like
That's what
stay
I hate about
focused. You're
smut.
trying not to die.
This
Yeah.
is like a teenager wrote a book.
Yeah.
And this is what I think this is about. Like, no.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
yeah.
It's like,
Anyways, that's my short review.
like a 10-minute review.
Definitely an Ariel review there.
It really was.
Well, I got to tell you, I want to defend young adult books that are really good. The good ones are better than any because they have to catch people's interest.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to from the get-go. So I don't think you should say, like, it's typical young adult. It's just bad young adult.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of my favorite books are young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll
I
agree
can name
with
off
that.
so
Like,
many
the Potion
fantastic
series and
ones,
stuff.
but
Fantastic.
there are some that have come out here recently that just suck.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, I've seen a lot of input from that.
And I think a lot of it is because they are trying to cater to adults with young adult books. And that's not what you should be doing. Like, young adult books are fine the way they are. If you want to cater to adults, write adult books.
Mm-hmm.
Just write them as a YA, as you would write a YA book. Like, I don't think that that's that
So
difficult.
basically write them on a third grade level.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
It's just, I think YA books handle so much more better than
I
adult
agree.
fiction.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're shorter.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they're doing that because,
Yeah, I think it was an article. I'm not entirely sure, but I saw it in, I think, our library think tank group, I think. But they had shared an article that basically was talking about YA and how, people are starting to cater, publishers are wanting to cater to adults instead of young adults.
See, I didn't even know there was a new genre. A new adult.
Yeah, the new adult.
or whatever.
Yeah, I knew there was.
new
I knew that
adult.
was a genre, but I feel like it's young adults with a bunch of sex.
Yeah.
That's all it is, basically, yeah.
When I read a young adult book, that's not what I want.
That's not why I read YA.
You want the story.
Yeah.
And the stories
That's
are
the
good.
reason I read young adult is because I don't want these sex scenes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
give me a little tension. That's great. Skip right over the sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need like 400 pages and maybe they kiss at the end. That's about it.
Yes.
That's what
Oh
you
my
get.
God, those are the best.
That's some good
The
stuff.
slow burns. It's like, you're like 50 pages from the end and they just like look at each other, lock eyes, and they have a kiss, and you're like, yeah!
And you're like, it's
In the
about
Breakfast
time,
Club.
guys. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's
I've been noticing that a lot lately, and it gets really annoying because I don't read adult fiction for the exact reasons they're doing to YA now. It's like, stop it. Like, if you want to make a new genre, fine, but don't call it YA.
That's
It's
why
not.
you should read horror books.
No way.
They aren't.
All right.
That's not happening in any horror books I've read.
so. My book. I say recently. It was
Back in August, I feel like we haven't really talked about a book chat a lot lately.
I have no idea. I'm lost.
August, September. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So a friend of mine reached out and told me to read this book, duology, that also has like a following duology behind it. And it's called The Innocent Mage by Karen Miller. And it's about this young guy named Asher who lives on the sea of this like kingdom. And he is a fisherman with his dad. And his brothers are awful. And like you open the book to him leaving in the dead of night so that he can go to the kingdom's capital and work to save up enough money for his dad and him to get a fishing boat so that they can start out on their own without his brothers. And it's really nice. Along the way, he gets there and he meets this girl who works for the king, the prince. And so the things kind of happen and he ends up working for the prince in the stables. And then he and the prince become best friends. And you see him like really come into his own, and it's really cool to see. And a lot of stuff happens. The magic is really cool. It's called weather magic, and only the king or like the ruler at the time is allowed to do it. And essentially he controls the weather in the kingdom to keep the wall that is protecting their city, their kingdom, safe from everything outside. So essentially there was like a massive, some sort of weird apocalypse, and the founder of the kingdom put up this wall and keeps everything out from it. It's pretty cool. It's kind of, you don't really figure a lot out until the second book. The first book is really just like him actually being happy and coming into his own and, learning how to be himself and stand up for himself, because he's never really had a chance to do that. And so, I don't know, you get to the last third of the book. It ends on a cliffhanger, upsetting, but I would have docked a whole star, but it doesn't have very high rating on Goodreads. So I gave it 5 stars. But yeah, usually cliffhangers, I dock a star because we can't have that. It's a long book. Both of them are long books. But
Wrap that up.
It was worth it, though. It was nice to see a book because a lot's going to happen. It's a long book, but
it's nice to see that he actually does get to be happy for a long time. And I'd say it's like a year or 2 maybe. And it's nice to see that, especially knowing his background. So I think that was the main reason. It was just kind of, it's not a quick book. It will not happen very fast. It just kind of once it does happen toward the end, you're just like, this isn't going to stop now. And it kind of doesn't. So, so I read that one, The Innocent Mage, and then the follow-up, which was The Awakened Mage, and highly recommend them. They were fantastic.
Oh, no, it's my turn again.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want me to talk about another book.
It's I really don't have anything. I'm reading one on healing Lyme because I got to deal with that, but I haven't got very far into it, and I really need a good apocalyptic book. I haven't had a good apocalyptic book in a long time.
You should read, what was that one? Dustborn, I think it is. I read that one. It's post-apocalyptic, and it's really good. I enjoyed it.
I may have to try that one then, because I do have time to read now.
I don't know that I'll give you a description since you say my descriptions are so bad.
Yeah, well, you told me it was fine. That, like, they kill everybody, and this is what they have to do. It was all about killing. I was like, I'm never reading that book. That sounds horrible. And it turned out to be great. And what she said was true, but not in the way she said it.
Okay.
You know,
Keep
if
you
you
on
want a
your
good
toes.
post-apocalyptic book, you should just read The Stand by Stephen King.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got free time.
It's like he is too. I listened to his Under the Dome.
Was it you?
And
No,
it was like it
Savannah.
took forever. And I really didn't care what kind of potatoes the kid hid in that time. I mean, it's like, I didn't need a whole page of it.
Once he got Big Deal, they quit editing. There was no, it's like Tom Clancy. The first few books were nice and tight, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's a big deal, and we're just going to let him go.
Okay. Savannah, our friend, and she's also on the library board, shared this meme the other day in our group chat. This is Slow Books. And it says, was describing your sandwich necessary to our understanding of what happened? And she's like, if Stephen King and who was the other person?
I don't remember.
Anyways, it was Stephen King and another author wrote a book together. And I was like, that is so incredibly accurate.
Who was it? Stephen King and...
I'm scrolling up. Maybe I can
Just
find
search
it.
Stephen King.
George R. R. Martin?
No. Oh, Tolkien.
Tolkien.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah.
They're more
I don't know,
vibe
Tolkien
writers.
does have to have the food, doesn't he?
He does that with
isn't
a
that
lot of
part of the
stuff.
whole Tolkien thing is having that food?
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. It was funny, though.
Very funny.
I was like, that's so incredibly accurate.
Well, it's funny because I read mysteries and detective stuff, and food's really important for some of those guys. I've been binging on The Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
And he goes to a lot of restaurants. And I'm writing them down so in case I ever go to Los Angeles, that's where I want to be. They're great books. I haven't read the Bosch books. I've seen the series. The Mickey Holler Lincoln Library books. Lincoln Library, that tells you how old I am. Lincoln Lawyer books are really good. And I'm up to the last one, and now I'm upset because he's not writing them as fast as I can read them.
See,
That
authors
is
need to get on it.
Yeah. That's when I found out that Raymond Chandler had only written so many. I was used to Agatha Christie when a new one comes out all the time. And I got to the end of the last one and went, oh, this is it.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But, they're really good. So sometimes cranking them out is not the way to do it. And Raymond Chandler is just the best.
The Clan of the Cape Bear series.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, that one took forever between books. Now, luckily, I started when she was already at 4 or 5 or something like that, so I could read most of it. And then I had to wait for the fifth one. And it took 20 years for that 6th one to come out. I had already made up my own ending, and I had never read it.
Yeah. I didn't. I quit reading them.
Yeah.
So they're all out now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you could read them.
We could read them.
Yep. Honestly, my luck, it'll be like whenever I started the Dresden Files.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, there hasn't been a book out forever. The whole thing is complete. So then I finally got them started, and then everybody was like, he's coming out with new books. How could you? I was like, it has been like a decade. What do you want me to do?
If she
then
has
the
another
book.
one, I'll be dead by the time it comes out. So, yeah.
See,
I thought she was dead.
I think she is.
I had a coworker when I worked in Virginia that she had read those books and she was talking about them, and I was like, I think my mom has read those, but yeah,
And they're really good books.
Mhm.
I mean, there was passages that I skipped because 3 pages of what the local flora was about got a little bit, that was a little bit much. But I mean, they're really good books.
Good to know.
All right, my book. I don't think that we've talked about Nettle and Bone.
I don't think so either.
Have you? Do you remember this?
I
Nettle
remember
and
that
Bone?
name, but I don't remember if we talked about it here. You mentioned it.
Okay,
Another
so
time.
it's written by T. Kingfisher, who I absolutely love. And this is actually a fantasy book and not a horror book that she wrote.
Yeah.
So I know!
It was my
It's a-
book club pick.
It's a big deal. But it's about this girl she's a princess, but she's like the youngest princess out of like, what is it, 3 sisters?
Yes.
Okay. And so her mom kind of just lets her do what she wants, and she kind of lives her life almost like a nun. She just has no interest in running the kingdom, no interest in people, which I feel that, and her oldest sister got married off to a king in a neighboring kingdom to form like an alliance. She died, right? So the middle sister got married off to the same prince, and they go and visit her sister when she has a baby, and she kind of can tell something's up, but she's not sure what. She finds out eventually that the prince is abusing her, and she's like, I'm going to kill him. And, this is the appropriate response.
Yes.
So she talks around to different people to figure out how she can kill this prince and not go to jail or not be beheaded,
Yeah.
So it's a touchy thing. You got to figure that out. So she goes to what they call was it a dust witch?
Yes.
Okay. And those are witches that live in like cemeteries, and they can talk to the dead, and they make sure, the dead pass on and whatever, that whole deal. And she gives her 3 impossible tasks and says if she completes these tasks that she will help her. And the first task is she has to make a cloak out of nettle.
Mm-hmm. This sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
And so like she sews a cloak, and her hands are just tore all to pieces. And then the second task is she has to make a dog out of bones. So she goes and finds random dog bones and puts them all together, wires them all together, and essentially brings this dog back to life. Mm-hmm. But he's just bones. So he's like the dog from Frankenweenie or whatever. So he's kind of like that. And I'm going to be honest, I love this dog.
Yeah.
He's the best little boy. I love him. I love him so much. And the third task was to like capture moonlight in a jar or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the dust witch was like, you weren't supposed to be able to do these other tasks. I'll go ahead and help you. And she's like, but I could do it. And she's like, no, you're good. So they go on this adventure and end up going to like a fae court, and the princess has to like give up a tooth to get this man from this other guy. Like that's their trade, is she gives away one tooth for a man, and the man's going to help them kill the prince. But this is like, it was the weirdest thing, because to pull the tooth, there was this certain...
I don't want to hear.
Well, it was weird. It was a certain fairy thing. He came over, and I can't remember what exactly he looked like, but I remember thinking in my head that he resembled a stork.
No, he was a stork. Yeah.
Was he a stork?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I can't remember. It's been too long. But all her teeth start like dancing in her mouth.
Yeah.
And he just reaches in and grabs the tooth that's been bothering her.
Yeah.
And pulls it out and gives it to the dude.
Yeah.
No big deal. But she like describes how her teeth feel dancing, and she's like clenching her teeth together because she doesn't like how it feels. And she would like give up a year of her life instead of have this happen again. Yeah. Like she hates it. And I don't blame her. That would be awful.
That was so weird to listen to, because I don't know, like
it almost made me feel like my teeth were moving.
I didn't like it.
Stop it.
I did not like it.
Did she get implants then? Or
no, she just, I mean, after he took the tooth, they all just were fine, so.
But she has given him power over her now because he owns a piece of her.
Nah.
Didn't work like that?
Nope.
That's a fae thing.
No, they're just selling bones.
Yeah, it was like a trade.
Yeah, it was this is like, so people can use it later, like this is a princess's tooth, or this is a nun's tooth, or however they described it. I think it was a nun is what they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so like they keep on going on their quest and whatnot and figure out how to, kill this prince and save her sister and all this other junk. And I don't want to give away the ending, but
no, because this sounds really good.
It is really good. Yeah. The ending, I got very worried for a little bit. Oh, I do want to mention though, while they are in the kingdom, they are underneath in like the catacombs type deal, and there is a ghost. Slime ball like thing. It's just a bunch of like grave robbers who've been murdered by this thing and then their souls get trapped. It's the weirdest thing to hear about. And I was like, what is even happening now?
That one was pretty creepy.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was weird. But it's a very good book. And I definitely suggest people read that one. T. Kingfisher is a great author.
What's the name of it again?
Nettle and Bone. And it's a short read, too. It's a short book.
Yeah. Zach?
All right. I need to finish Nettle and Bone. It seems really good, but I didn't get a chance to. All right. Next book. So I've got, which one? So let's go with, I've been reading some like weird books recently. I did read The Hollow Places, which I might talk about later if we have time, but I'll go with Annihilation.
That is a weird one.
It's a fantastic book. It's by Jeff Vandermeer.
But it's kind of freaky.
Oh, no, it's super freaky. I love it. It's definitely got some vibes.
And it's better than the movie or TV version or whatever it was.
Those are not even comparable. It's like not even the same thing.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, Chantel read the book, and I told her she needed to watch the movie too. She watched the movie right afterwards. She hated the movie because it was so different from the book. It's like not even the same thing.
Too. Yeah, yeah.
No, I wouldn't even say it's like the same story at all. The only similarities is that there is some weird area called Area X, and then there's also a lighthouse. That's about it.
And a missing keeper.
Yeah, I mean it's very, very, very different. There's like maybe 2 1/3 characters that are the same between the two books. Anyway.
Yeah.
The premise is you've got this area called Area X, and there is this group called the Southern Reach, and they are basically getting little expeditions to go in and explore this weird area.
Because it's growing, right?
Don't know if it's growing or not at first, Mother.
Well, no, but...
You're spoiling, like, these are big key plot points.
Oh my gosh!
Big key plot points. I'm going to be very vague about this. Huh?
I mean, I don't remember it being, like, not near the beginning and that big of a...
No, it was...
I mean, what was going on inside was more interesting than the fact that...
I agree. I'm just saying that that's something you find out pretty late on in the book. In the movie, it's, like, right at the very beginning. Anyway, so... You've got these people, they go in there, there's a group of 4 of them. There is a psychologist, a biologist, a surveyor, and, oh man, what was the last one?
Wasn't there someone from the army?
No.
Or someone with weapons? I thought there was somebody.
You were thinking about the movie.
Oh.
There was somebody who had some military experience. I think the surveyor had some military experience.
Yeah, there you go.
I missed it. What's this book called?
Annihilation.
There's one other person. Let me try to remember this. The biologist is the main character. Her husband had gone into Area X beforehand, but he was one of these people who basically they appeared back where they came from, right? So they went in and then disappeared because nobody comes out of this expedition like ever, basically. And the people from one of the previous ones, they had just showed up where they used to live, and they like acted all weird and different, and eventually they all die afterwards because something is messed up about them. The last one is the anthropologist, by the way. Anyway, so you got these 4 characters, they go in, time is really weird there, you don't remember time passing for some reason, and so when you cross into this area, you can't remember what happened, right? And a lot of that is just because there's the psychologist who has done some conditioning on everybody so that she has specific like commands and things so she can make you forget stuff or do specific things, whatever. And she's sort of the person who is in charge of the mission. You don't get anybody's names in this book. It's kind of weird, but the whole premise of the book is that they're trying to explore the area inside of Area X, and there's 2 main regions that we talk about. There is the lighthouse, which is where they think everything started. And then there is this thing called, well, the main character, the biologist, calls it the tower, even though it goes down into the ground, right? It's like basically a huge spiral staircase. And when you go in, there's writing on the wall, and it says like just some really strange stuff. And if you look close at the letters, they've got like little creatures growing in them. That's how it's written. Right, little funguses, and they've got little spores that come out at you if you get too close. It's a very strange book. It's got really weird vibes. Everything is told from the biologist's point of view, and you're just following her journey through this place. And stuff is revealed along the way through the use of mostly journals, because you're not allowed to have any technology in the area. You're not allowed to have watches or like video recording or audio recording, nothing. Everything is very old school. Even like the weapons that they bring in, so they have like a bunch of pistols and then a assault rifle of some description, and that thing is like 30 years old. Everything is like super old in here. You don't really find out a good reason for that. They sort of imply some weird things about why it's like that, but yeah, no tech. You just walk around, you try to figure stuff out, and it's just the vibes of that book are so good. It's so creepy all the time. All the descriptions are very strange, and the biologist doesn't always tell the truth about what's happening. Hides stuff. Because this is all sort of told from her journal sort of view almost. And she sort of hides things from you.
This does not sound good.
The unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound creepy. It doesn't sound...
It sounds super creepy.
It sounds good.
I think it sounds boring as heck.
He's trying not to give stuff away.
I know, that's the thing.
Doing.
I don't want to tell you specifically what happens, because all of these little things like keep expanding out the stuff you know about the area and about the history of these expeditions. And
the more you know,
the worse the book is, honestly.
Yeah, it's not a feel-good book.
Oh, is it like The Ruins? I hated that.
I don't think I read that one, but it's just
creepy.
not a feel-good book.
Up. You said Annihilation, right?
Annihilation. And it's not, I wouldn't call it a horror book. It is a creepy vibes book, though.
Who's it by?
Jeff Vandermeer, I think.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I had the right one.
Yeah, it's got like a little plant dude on the front.
Yeah.
Ooh.
With a bug.
I don't know. I'll mark it.
Bug.
And I'll read it, and then I'll tell you if it's boring or not.
It's like a super creepy mystery.
I mean,
sci-fi.
I like sci-fi.
Yeah,
I like
sounds
mystery. I like creepy. So it sounds like I would like it, but his description makes it sound super boring.
That's because he's not wanting to give stuff away.
Yeah, no, it's like there's weird stuff that happens in the book, and there's like creepy vibes that happen, and people don't do super well there. Let's just say that.
No.
And it's like it's not gross, but you kind of want to have that. It's like you don't have another word for some of the stuff.
It's yeah. So
cool.
like the movie is very different, but that gets into the more body horror type stuff. The movie's very good too. Mm-hmm. It just, if you read the book, don't watch the movie soon afterwards. You need to give it some time. You know, it's a very, very good movie though, and it's got Natalie Portman and a few other people in it. It's a fantastic movie, but I do agree the book is better, and I want to read the rest of the series. I
watched the movie so long after I read the book that I had trouble actually putting them together in my mind.
Yeah.
It was like well into the movie, and I was like, wait a minute, I knew this.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those deals.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, for example, the tower thing, which is a huge section of the book, not even in the movie at all.
Yeah.
All right, I got another book I can talk about if y'all want to hear.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So this is actually, I'm reading this. I'm not done with it. I am like probably 80% done with it. And I had to read it for my Witches of the Western World class in school. It's called The Witch's Trinity by Erica Mailman. And it is a historical fiction book, I would say. It covers the witch hysteria in this tiny little German town that's made up. It's not a real town. But I'm going to butcher these names because they're German. So I don't know how to pronounce them. But it follows the life of Good, I believe is her name. She's an old woman. Her and her friend Kune are the oldest women in the town. Kune is a medicine woman for the town. And Kune is actually the first witch accused. And she watches her friend get burned at the stake. And she desperately wants to go and gather her friend's bones up out of the fire and bury them. And her son's like, you can't do that. They're going to accuse you of being a witch and yada, yada, yada. Well, the whole town is starving. They think that Satan has cursed the village, and that's why everybody's starving. And Good lives with her son, her son's wife, and their 2 kids. And all the men in the town decide to go on a hunting trip to try to find something to eat, because even in the woods near their village, there's no birds, there's no squirrels, there's no rabbits. Like, everything has moved on because there is no food anywhere. And her daughter-in-law hates her. And you can see how her brain, like her daughter-in-law's brain, is like formulating some plan to get her accused of witchcraft. Now, there are moments where she's old. She loses her mind sometimes. She like didn't recognize her son at one point. Like, she just can't remember things. And her daughter-in-law like locks her outside of her house in the middle of winter and says, go beg in the streets for food for these kids. You know, like, her daughter-in-law is mean. And there is some, like, witch encounters within the book. And she claims through the entire book that she did not sign the devil's book. But it's iffy. It's iffy if she did or not. Because there's, like, she does go to where they are having, like, a meeting where they're dancing or fornicating, and the devil's there, and she's tempted by a lot. But it's a really, really good book. It covers the witch hysteria really, really well. And it's a very fast read. And if you're into Salem witch trials or like any of the witch trial hysteria stuff, I would definitely suggest people read it because it is really good. I've enjoyed reading it. And usually with school books, you don't. So.
Yeah. So I recently finished up the X-Files Origins stories. There's one about Fox and one about Scully.
And so I just finished Scully's book. It's called Devil's Advocate by Jonathan Mayberry. And I guess you could say that they're both standalones because they're each completely separate, but they're about the main characters. So this one is about how she and her family moved to this town. Her dad was in the Navy. Yeah. And so, you know, he's like really straight-laced. She's, you know, straight-A student. Her sister's like, or they are kind of into like some new age, her sister is. And, you know, Dana goes with her to this stuff and is like she's like into it. She likes yoga because it's good for her body. Like, it helps her relax, it helps her stretch. And that's kind of how she uses it. And, you know, she's not really religious, but, you know, she also is just like, well, you know, I want to believe in it, but I don't really know how. And so there's this coffee shop that's also like, I don't know, like they have crystals and, you know, special tea and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't know, somewhere around a month or so into their new school year, they learned that one of their fellow students is killed in a car crash. Like, she wrecks into a tree in the middle of the night, and they're just saying that she was high. And all the kids are like, there's no way. Like, we knew her, there's no way. And Dana has been having these really weird dreams. And she almost feels like they're visions, but she doesn't believe that actually. And so, yeah, you just follow along with all of the things that basically she sees, and then a lot of that stuff ends up happening or something similar. And she tries to uncover whether or not this girl was actually murdered, because there are also 5 other kids, I think, 3 from their school and 2 from another school, who have died basically the same way. Car crash, they were high, and they weren't actually kids that did that. So it was just, she starts investigating it, and she also kind of just goes a little bit insane. And it's a wild ride, like, especially towards the end. And I caught myself a lot thinking, how are you missing this? Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. How? I know it's because she's a teenager. And then you find out really why she was missing a lot of it. But yeah, so it was good. I gave actually both books 4 stars. They were good, especially for like origin stories. I like them a lot. They seem to stay pretty true to what they were even as adults, which is kind of nice, especially for something that's so well established. But yeah, they were just Yeah, they didn't get 5 stars, but they were definitely good books. I highly recommend them if you are an X-Files fan.
Are they going to do Skinner?
I don't know. There've only been the 2. I read, let me see here.
I love Skinner.
Agent of Chaos was Fox's, and his, I read that one, it's been like 3 or 4 years ago, and I finally got around to this one. So I've taken a few years to get there, but yeah, I liked them both, and they haven't had another one out since. It's still just the 2, so I think, at least for now, that's it. Who knows?
Oh, as long as they do Skinner.
Yeah. I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, stuff like that. I love origin stories. I'm going through, like, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, and this was a fun one to find.
Well, opposite from origin stories, I finished Terry Pratchett's Eye.
Oh.
Did you really?
I did.
How was it?
And I really liked it. I didn't cry because I was actually driving when I finished it that last hour. So I was like I was gritting my teeth to keep from crying. But I still have trouble with the Neil, when Neil Gaiman went to visit him.
Oh,
I
gosh.
can't hardly think about that without.
Yeah, that's rough. It's really rough.
It was hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the book overall was amazing.
Absolutely.
It was a fantastic book.
It was.
Yeah. I really did. I ugly sobbed. I know you said it was really rough that last hour, but you were not kidding. Not kidding.
Yeah, no, it was really bad. It was.
I haven't finished it yet.
I don't know if I want to read it now.
It's worth reading.
It was
if you don't want to like be upset, stop before you read the last hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Because I remember looking when I got in the car, I was like, oh, I have an hour and like 15 minutes. I'm like, oh no. Oh no, I'll be driving. I can't cry like that when I'm driving.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like all I could do but I didn't. I didn't wreck or anything.
That's
So it was
why I
good.
never read Old Yeller.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where the Red Fern Grows. That was another one.
Bridge to Terabithia.
I never read that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bridge to Terabithia is just not cool. Okay,
It'll
it's just not
wreck
okay.
you.
My brother and his son read that together. Two of them just bawled like babies.
Yup.
They're still scarred.
Yep. I read that, and I had to read Where the Red Fern Grows for school. They made us read that in elementary school.
Yeah, it's like 4th grade, scar you for life.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I will never read another dog book.
Honestly, I don't remember reading it. I know that I did, but I don't remember reading it. I know I blocked it out. There's a lot of things. I've only watched Bambi one time in my life. I've only watched Fox and the Hound one time in my life.
Oh man, that one kills me.
Listen, if something makes me sob like that, I will only do it one time and one time only. Like, that's it.
What was it? The one with Littlefoot.
Oh,
was the first one.
Land Before Time.
Yeah, that first one. Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
loved those movies.
Yep.
But yeah, that was another one.
Yep. No, I save, like, when I sob like that with stuff, I put it in the back of my mind for when I'm, like, depressed and I need to cry. Then I'll put something on to make me cry. But it's like, okay, this is the dumbest thing. Titanic. I cry every time. I can start crying a fourth of the way through the movie because I know what happens.
Exactly.
And then I just cry the entire time.
Don't get on the boat.
Yeah, I'm like, no, don't do this.
To this day, the beginning of The Lion King makes me cry.
Yeah.
And it's not the same kind of cry, but it's like,
yeah, you still
Yeah.
like
Yep.
and yeah.
Yeah. I watched that Elemental movie and I cried. Have you seen that?
I have not.
It's the new Disney movie.
Yeah, I ordered it.
So good. Such a good movie. Bald.
See, that's what I took.
Rowan cried. Rowan looked at me and she's like, "Are you crying?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Me too."
I have never read or but watched. Is it Coco? Which one is the one that you guys?
I will
Yeah,
not watch
Coco.
that one.
Oh,
Oh
Coco.
my God.
Coco's a
Rough.
fantastic little movie. I loved it.
There are a lot of the recent Disney movies I will not watch because I know they are very emotional. It took me a long time. I don't know, probably
Like 2 years to watch Encanto?
Yeah.
I
sobbed.
haven't.
Encanto is not
sobbed.
nearly as bad as Coco
It's
with the
not.
emotional
Yeah,
stuff.
Coco's worse.
And that's like, I won't watch it. Everybody was like, you have to watch it. I was like, you know what? No, I don't need to cry that much. I know I don't. Like, I know for a fact I do not.
Dude, they got some good songs in there, though.
I am positive that they do. I might just listen to the soundtrack, but I won't watch the movie.
They have good songs.
That's why I never liked animal movie books when I was a kid. Either the mom died the baby died.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The little girl that takes them in died, or her mom died.
Yep.
Somebody's always dying.
So
And
important.
I'm just reading it and going,
Yep.
And it makes you wonder why. Why do they always do this?
I don't know. They like torturing us.
Yeah. Although I read all of Little Women, all of that, And,
Yeah.
And you're going, Beth died. Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody listening? Everything's wonderful.
It's a great book. So happy.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any new books? I have one more, but just in case anybody else does first.
I have
do
one more
not.
as well. So you
go
go,
ahead,
you can go ahead and go first.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so I recently we've all talked and joked about my smut month, okay? And we're over it, we're past it, thank God. Like it's never happening again. But I think Amazon has figured out now I won't do the smut anymore. So now they're like, we're gonna get her with rom-coms. And you know what they really did with this one?
She talked about this one.
It is so precious. I loved every minute of it. There was exactly like one chapter where I was worried, and then like
I still knew it was gonna be fine. But anyway, it's called 3 Things I'd Never Do by Remy Carrington. And there's a whole series. I bought this one on Kindle, and I'm 100% going to buy the rest of the books. Like, I'm doing it. So this one, I read kind of like a snippet of the first chapter, and it's essentially this, I don't know, she's, I think, like 28, 29, and she's living with her parents, which is one thing that she said she would never do after, like, moving out. She's living with them because her house was struck by lightning and it hit a copper pipe or something like that and sent her off.
I laugh every time you talk about
I'm telling you, it's so precious and sweet. I love it. And so,
Of all the reasons to move back in, that's a good one.
it is. So she's like, I said I would never do it, but I kind of have to because my house is open to the elements. And so, her parents are away for the weekend, so she's kind of having like some me time. She's taking a bubble bath, and her kitten's out like playing around. This old man cuts down this massive tree that is between their houses. The tree, part of the tree falls onto the house and traps her in the bathtub. Okay. So she's terrified. She is kind of like actually in shock. She's just like, what is this? Like, what's going on? Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a whole lot. And so finally she hears sirens and she's like, maybe they're coming to get me. Maybe they can get me out, whatever. She's just like having this great internal monologue. And I'm like, I can relate massively. So then this fireman comes in. He's like, let me know you're in here. And she's like, oh, yeah. I'm here in the bathtub and, I don't have clothes on. It's just me and the bubbles. Like, you're really awkward, hilarious. And he's like, okay, well, my name's Adam. What's your name? And she goes, I'm Evelyn, but everyone calls me Eve. And then she just like stops and she's like in her head, she's like, I swear, I hope he thinks I am not joking. This is ridiculous. So yeah, he gets her out of the tree and, whatever. And the whole reason she was getting ready, the next night she was going on a blind date, which is her second thing she said she would never do, especially if her mom was setting her up, which she was. So the next night she goes to this blind date. The guy is late. So she's like already mad. She's getting ready to leave. And then she sees the fireman. And he's her blind date. And she's like, this is the worst day of my life. So she just kind of bolts. She's like, nope, I'm not doing this. No. And he like catches her on the way out. He's like, please just stay. Like, let me buy you dinner. If you never want to go out again, that's fine. Like, just let me do this so I can get my mom off my back. Like, it's one of those things. And, they go on the date and they have a fantastic time. And it's really precious, really sweet. He's super funny. She's funny. And a little bit down the line, she finds out that he has dogs. And she is not a dog person. That was her third thing. She would never date a guy that had a dog. And he has 2 dogs. And so you just kind of go from there. They have like a whirlwind romance. Well, I say romance. They literally just hug and kiss, and that's it. And I'm like, you know what? Perfect. Thank you. But yeah, it's absolutely adorable. I loved it. I'm going to read the rest of the series. It got 5 stars. Nobody's surprised.
It sounds like some of the Jennifer Cruises she put out a while ago, like Bet Me and stuff, which were I'm not a romancy kind of person.
Yeah.
But they were very good.
Oh, yeah. I laughed the whole time. It was very sweet. It was nice. It was a nice change of pace for a lot of the stuff that I've read this year. So, yeah, that was my last book.
All right,
Exactly.
my last book, The Hollow Places by Tim Kingfisher. Ariel said this was really good. I read it. I got to say, by the way, I was like looking on the Goodreads page to see how what they say, so I don't spoil too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like the same book that they're describing on the Goodreads page. Take a look at that, Ariel, and tell me if that's the same book you read.
Okay. Hold on.
Like, there's
Well,
some
now
parts
I'm
of it that are.
interested.
Okay, so basically, the premise of this book is you have this chick, Kara. She recently gets divorced. She has to find some place to stay, and her uncle, who owns a sort of like mysteries and curiosities museum, offers to let her stay there, and she helps out with the museum. He's having some medical issues or whatever. He's got like joint pain, and he can barely walk around and stuff. But she takes him up on it. She goes there and stays, and she doesn't want to stay with her mom is the main reason she went there instead of home to her mom. Also, she's in her mid-30s. I couldn't imagine living at home in my mid-30s. Mom, I love you and all that, but no. You know what I'm saying?
Try your 40s one of these days.
I'll get there eventually. I hope. I hope at least. Anyway, it's kind of fun little vibes there. She's got somebody else who lives in the building that her uncle owns. He owns the entire building, and there's like a little coffee shop adjacent to the mystery museum, the Curiosities Museum. I can't remember what they call it. I just read this book.
I don't remember what they call it, but that's basically what it is.
I think it's just they call it the Mystery Museum or something like that. Anyway, not important. There's a little coffee shop right next there, and the barista is a fun character, and they become like they're friends basically during this whole thing. And Kara one day notices that there's a hole in the drywall. A hole in the drywall of the Mystery Museum, and she asks the guy who's like fairly handy to come over and take a look at it. And they go over there, take a look at it, and notice that there's like this huge open room back there. And they're like, "Oh man, we're always limited on space here. Let's go ahead and check it out." So they cut a bigger hole in the wall and walk in. And
Not good.
the space inside is much, much bigger than it should be. And it goes out past the borders of the building entirely. Right?
Is it like the TARDIS?
Kinda.
Sounds like
It
the
sort of feels
TARDIS.
like the TARDIS at first. It's not like that, though.
Okay.
This is like a
those
portal
kind of vibes
to a
there,
different
though.
realm, basically.
Yeah.
And that's on the
Okay.
book jacket, so I'm not spoiling too much. But anyway, they go out there and they start looking around, and it turns out that they're in this bunker. And there's some like writing on the walls, and it goes outside into a place that looks completely different from where they're from. And it's covered in sand in a stream, and then there's a bunch of willows and islands all around. And from then, once you get to that point, it starts getting really, really creepy and disturbing. T. Kingfisher has a great way with words, with
Oh my
describing
God,
some of this
it's
stuff.
so
And some of the stuff she
good.
comes up with is just like, it's not okay. It really isn't.
I love it.
I don't know what's wrong with this lady. But overall, it's a very good book. If I had a complaint about it, it's the fact that she says the word willows too much. Like
She does
it's
say that a lot in that.
hundreds of times in this book, it feels like.
Yeah.
And then a couple times they undercut the horror aspect a little bit with some like sarcasm or jokes. I know it's the characters trying to cope with what's happening, but it does
Yeah.
undercut it a little bit. Aside from
Okay,
that,
I
though,
want
it's
to
a
know
very creepy book.
what did you think of the school bus?
Oh, the school bus was not okay at all. That was like probably the school bus was like really, really disturbing, and so was that dude they find who's still alive in the water.
Man, he freaks me out so much. Still to this day, when I think about him, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, no,
I'm
he's
never
very
reading
strange.
that.
No, it's a good
Well,
book.
it sounded like it was really good there for a while, but disturbing is a disturbing word.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wasn't scared by it, but it does give you some really creepy vibes and stuff. And it's just like I wouldn't want to read it, by myself in a place. Like I read this while I was doing other things because I was listening to it, and it was fine. If I was sitting down and reading this and like fully absorbed in it, I don't think it would have been.
Yeah, see, I
wouldn't
laid
be as
in
chill.
bed. I laid in bed at night reading this
Oh,
book.
see, no, that you put yourself in that situation, you're gonna get scared half to death. Especially if anything makes a noise in your place or you're hearing scratching, you're just like, oh no.
Yep.
Oh no, that's not okay.
What'd you think of those monsters? Were they not terrifying?
There's a few different kinds of monsters.
I'd
say two different kinds of monsters. One is like not scary, but the ones that are like the ones that are written about on the walls, they call them just they.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those things are terrifying.
Yep.
They're not cool. I don't like them. Don't like them at all.
I will say from the fantasy that I read by her,
I went and added more. She has more fantasy books, and I did love the way she wrote. So I can only imagine her terrifying stuff being terrifying, because there were
her
definitely creepy
descriptions
spots.
of things is just, it's
You
really
should, A House with Good Bones is another, it's classified as horror, but it's not really scary until the very end. And then it's not scary per se, but it's creepy. Like the monsters in that one are, they're weird. You should read that one though. It's good.
Speaking of scary and creepy, how's your nonfiction coming?
Me? It's getting good. It's, I started reading it a little bit yesterday. I feel like I'll definitely finish it by next Friday. He's being hypnotized right now and bringing back those memories and stuff like that. And I think in my head, I haven't quite convinced myself that it's a true story. So I'm just reading it thinking, oh, we're good. But like when he's talking about the images that he sees, that made me a little anxious. So.
Yeah, it's like, dude, some of his regressions are absolutely, I mean, I can still hear a line screaming in my head.
No.
And I read this before you guys were born.
So, yeah, it'll be good.
Be interesting.
She's reading Communion.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which some people aren't sure is nonfiction.
I know. But it's got the numbers on it. So
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I know.
It says true story on the cover.
So it must be so.
It has to be so.
I thought you said this wasn't on Audible.
I didn't look on Audible. I said I didn't want to listen to it because the idea of
bring them to
it would bring them to me.
Yeah.
That was my thought process.
And you were having trouble finding a physical copy. Okay, I get you. I was like, it's on Kindle too. But
Okay, do we have any other last thoughts?
This has been fun.
No, good.
You'll have to come back on for sure.
Well, thank you. I like this.
Absolutely.
I'm already thinking of stuff.
Good. That's good.
That's good.
That's what we love to hear. Okay, so our next episode highlight, we will be, again, talking about Ariel's nonfiction pick, Communion by Whitley Strieber. So, I can't wait to hear what she thinks about all this, because, again, aliens. We will then be welcoming Danny with Spirit Walk Paranormal back for our spooky season session. Ooh, that was fun to say. Which we are super excited about and hope you are too. We'll be following that episode with a curiosity or conspiracy. We haven't decided yet, so tune in for lots of fun, scares, and cackles. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's time for us to sign off, but before we go, say it with me now. Only the best libraries have librarians who won't shut you.
Yay.